Is God going to answer the prayer to turn Artaxerxes' heart toward Nehemiah? Verse 4 tells us the answer. The king asked, well, how can I help you? Can you imagine for Nehemiah the sigh of relief when the king says those words? I mean, Nehemiah is believing God for a miracle, but it's one thing to believe it. It's another thing to see it. The king's like, slave, how can I help you? Only God could have done this. And then I love how Nehemiah continues. He says, with a prayer to the God of heaven. So he's saying, oh Lord, help me get this right. He's asking me how he can help me to get this right. With a prayer to the God of heaven, I replied, if it please the king, and if you are pleased with me as your servant, send me to Judah to rebuild the city where my ancestors are buried. Now, there's two things I want to point out to you here. The first is the level of risk that Nehemiah was taking. It's well documented in ancient history that King Artaxerxes, his dad, was killed by a bodyguard in the inner circle there in the king's court who turned on him. And King Artaxerxes then killed that bodyguard to get the kingdom. So this is a king who is very sensitive to being betrayed by people in his inner court. And Nehemiah is going to essentially say, I care more about my nation and identity and ancestors than you. Can I leave you to go rebuild this city? So the odds are not on his side unless God is involved. The second thing I want to point out about this short verse is that Nehemiah has clearly thought through the steps that he needs to take to rebuild the city. So when King Artaxerxes says, how can I help you? Nehemiah doesn't say, I never thought you'd ask. I mean, I don't actually know. Could I think about it and get back to you in 2 or 3 weeks? That's probably what I would have done. But Nehemiah, as he's been praying that God would turn the king's heart, he's been planning as if God will turn the king's heart. So as you're praying for God to do a miracle in your situation, how can you start planning as if God's going to perform that miracle? Then, when God does perform the miracle, you're ready.